Hey guys, Steve here. Today we got to look at the legendary tier Soviet Russian Destroyer Khabarovsk. We call it Khaba in the business. I got troops on the screen there. That's not a build designed for this particular ship. And note, that's the build for the ship that we played this game. Usually I want to put prop mod on most destroyers, but it occurred to me relatively early into this game that the steering was a little wonky. And now that I'm looking at the stats, really wonky. Way worse than pretty much any cruiser. Without that, with the prop mod on there and the concealment mod in slot 3, for instance, where we don't have any sort of steering. I think it was like 12.4 second rudder shift. I got it down to 10 by moving that slot number 2 mod over to steering. So that's a consideration. Long term, I got enough Soviet destroyer commanders that I'll probably design a build specifically for this guy. And mobility will be one of the main functions here. This is the most damage I was able to squeeze out of this ship so far. This is a very early impressions video. Normally I try and do about 10 games, give or take. I probably got just a handful in this one. I had to work 11 hours today. But I'm jonesing bringing you some footage of the ship, and I figure you guys are fiending to get a first look at it. So, thought we'd go ahead with what we got. On the whole, this is a Russian destroyer. On the whole, the Shima, which I played a couple games in, is a Japanese destroyer. So if you're trying to decide which one of these would I enjoy more, compare them to the main line. My advice, though, the Shima is going to be probably more beginner-friendly if you're trying to go for your first destroyer legendary tier and you're still, relatively new to the game. Shima's probably going to be easier to play. Just in general, the Russian destroyers, I don't see them played well very often at all. And I'm going to try and point out how I would suggest playing these ships. You can apply that advice to the entire line, but it's going to be important in this ship. I think here's the first time I was trying to cut it steering, and it feels like, that glitch, if you want to call it a glitch, where if you're about to engage the rudder and then you go to the map or you ping something and then it cuts your rudder off. That's kind of what it felt like. I was like, oh man, this thing's not even turning. Or zoom out or whatever. No, it's just very slow to react. But check out these guns. Check out the accuracy. I mean, this is hard-hitting guns, long range. I haven't deployed the smoke yet, but as soon as we start taking some fire, we'll go ahead and pop the smoke potentially. But these are more accurate at that range than Cleveland, which is going to be much floatier. And we're taking some shots here left and right, but look at the firing range on this map. I got 12.9, I believe, on my build. Or wait, yeah, 12.9. So... and there's room to improve that even more. If you got that Rumble Commander, for instance, get him involved from the Transformers. You want to be playing this thing at range. This thing can wreck destroyers, but what you're going to see happening when you start seeing these around is they're going to be engaging the enemy destroyers close range. Doesn't have the mobility to dodge torps. It can't really function at close range. You're going to get outspotted by a million miles. Now, note I don't have camo on this thing. But my current build, 7.6 kilometer sea detection. Now I don't have the inspirations like Bay or anything like that. But you gotta understand with these Russian destroyers, you're gonna be outspotted. That's one of the realities of the matter. If you want to tighten up the detection, just so you're not getting heavily spotted by like cruisers or whatever, that's your option. It's not my recommendation though. You just gotta understand that concealment is not what you're going to be doing here. We got a very fast ship. We got guns that are really nice at long range. And you can see here we're having no trouble hitting these shots. Getting some damage here and there, getting some block shots as well. Mix of damage in that. But this ship functions well at long range. Basically, you got to play it as kind of a clunky cruiser, which doesn't turn as well as a lot of the cruisers in the game. But you got smoke. So it's kind of like... a mobile cruiser with the ability to protect itself as long as you got some spotting. Well, look at this. Look at these shots in the Adachi. That's a fairly long-range shot, and we're not really having any trouble peppering that guy and doing a fair amount of damage. Now, this game is actually going to be a loss, and I think our damage, I want to say it's like 175k or something like that. Can't strictly judge a destroyer game on damage. In fact, I'm kind of advocate for... often I try and show lower damage destroyer games just to, reiterate the point that, playing objectives, playing the other rows, counter destroyer rows, spotting rolls more important than dealing raw damage. But this is kind of, it's kind of its own class of ship. So don't feel bad about, doing some damage here. But if you can do those rolls, counter the destroyers, capture the bases, that sort of stuff, great. Take advantage of those opportunities when you can. But you got to realize we got really big detection here, so capturing bases, not exactly our forte. Countering destroyers, not exactly our forte. We're kind of there to support that type of an effort, because if they're outspotting us by 2.5 kilometers, that's a significant advantage. They can actually keep us permanently spotted. If you have a 2.5 kilometer buffer between the ability to spot the enemy destroyer and their ability to spot you, they can essentially just play keep away from you and keep you lit, and then their support ships will blow you up. So how you're doing your job kind of differs, and that's kind of why a lot of people have trouble with this. Note that significant damage there. Something we're going to be checking out when the armor view comes around is the armor on the Khaba, because my understanding from, I looked at the ship a while ago from the PC players, and they talk a lot about the armor and, potentially you can angle against certain shots, but potentially the armor is thick enough where you can actually get wrecked pretty hard by some AP, just because it's actually arming, because it's meeting a significant armor threshold, whereas normally it would be a lightly armored ship and the fuses wouldn't arm on those shells and they would pass right through. So there's going to be some considerations that we need to learn about next week when we get the armor view in the game. Not really currently possible beyond relying on what we can glean from the PC, but we've seen as time goes on in this game more and more of a departure between the two games. So we'll take a look at that, but potentially something to keep in mind. So anyway, this game, we can jump into this here. I do want to point out Traverse, 7.9 seconds. Compare that to the Tashkent, 16.4, same build across the board, so significantly better. And the Tashkent's actually not that bad compared to some of the earlier tech tree ships in that line. So, that's kind of one of the things where a lot of times with the Russian destroyers you'd want to build for a Traverse build in mind. And another reason why this might warrant having its own unique build, departing from what happened in the line. Anyway, you can see here we got the torpedo strike. We're kind of hoping that those battleships come around here. Alabama kicking it in the back though, so he was pushing into us. We got the torp strike on whatever that other ship was, killed him, and we're getting a fair amount of damage here. That's a pretty juicy torpedo strike. Again, one of the main problems that your average player has with this line is they're playing it like a traditional destroyer, trying to get the torpedoes involved too often. Now in the Khaba, we got 6 kilometer range, 58 knots in the water. Compare that to Tashkent, 8 kilometer range, 64 knots in the water. So that might change just a little bit, because I do have a little bit more of a torpedo focused build on that one. But the underlying point is there. 6 kilometers versus 8 kilometers. And keep in mind, our detection range on this, sea detection range, 7.6. So, if you're getting into situations like this, and this is an extremely risky play, I actually didn't think this was going to work, due to the armor thing that we're talking about, the ability of that ship to actually knock the snot out of us, not having a lot of health, and we almost went down there. He did blast us pretty hard, but we do have a few more K health in the bank. But now look at this. First salvo away, and then watch the indicator. I'm trying to okay, let's get that second salvo off. That's a very slow traverse on that torpedo tube, and we almost didn't get the shot off there, but we're able to bum rush that Yamato with the suicide strike and blast away. So we got 178k there. I think that's going to probably do it for our round here. We do get caught by this Cleveland. That's an existential type of a threat to the ship to begin with. Add in the fact that we got 2.5k health at that point in time. It ain't going to work out. So a bit of a awareness or positioning mistake there or whatever. Desperate times, desperate measures. Our team was down significantly. We were trying to get things done in as reckless of a fashion as possible. Anyway, that's, like I said, that's the most damage I've gotten out of this thing in a handful of games. But, I hope it illustrated the main things, which, again, I'm going to tighten up my understanding on this. We'll be streaming, I think, Saturday morning, maybe even Sunday morning as well, taking a look at this and the Shima heavily. So if you guys want to tune in for that, I usually stream at 10:30 Central Time in the morning, but we'll be doing more of a deep dive on this. But my early takeaways: good health. We got 25,000, great range, 13K, 12.9, 13 kilometers. And again, there's room to improve that if you do have that Rumble Commander, or even tinker with the builds. I think there's other perks that I don't currently use that can increase the range. Reload, 4.6, outstanding. Turret Verse, outstanding, 7.9. So the gun stats across the board, very good. Mobility and detection kind of force you to play this at range, which is fine because the guns are hyper accurate at range. Nice travel trajectory to the target, so you're not going to have trouble hitting the targets at range. But if you get too close, all the advantages start to go to the enemy, and you're going to have a real hard time. So use the speed, use the range, use your teammates. This is kind of a support ship, kind of an annoyance where we want to be helping our teammates and then seeing, when they got an enemy, engaging them. Okay, we're going to start blasting that guy. See if you can distract him. He's going to be like, okay, let's go try and shoot that destroyer. Get their attention onto you. Use the speed to get out of your max firing range, drop spot, and kind of influence the situation that way. That's kind of the prototypical play of the Russian destroyers, and this one's no different. And this is kind of the crown jewel of the line. So again, I only played a few games in this so far, a handful of games, but so far I actually enjoy this quite a bit. So we'll stay tuned. We'll get some more coverage up. They gave this to me for a week to test drive, then they're going to take it away, and I'll probably have another 2-3 weeks till we earn it fully in the Bureau. But we'll be taking more looks at this and the Shimakaze, so stay tuned for that. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this one. If you did, please hit the thumbs up. New to the channel, consider subscribing. Lots of World of Warships coming all the time. Questions, comments, leave them below. Love to hear from you guys, and see y'all later. Peace.